fabrics and clothing, all decorated with Berlin architecture. Sandra Siewert originally trained as an architect. Now she's a designer, and Berlin is her source of inspiration. Architectural silhouettes and building facades are transformed into graphic prints. Her collection is now so large that she's even launched her own label, called Swiert.
I like Berlin as a collage city, as a collage of architecture, of different styles, different people. And what we see, it's not always beautiful, but interesting. And now we're gonna look at this together. I will show you my view on Berlin.
The government district on the banks of the Spree River is a showcase for the transformation that has overtaken Germany's capital since the wall came down in 1989. Now it's a fascinating mix of old and new, and it's Sandra's first tip today. In her walks around the city, Sandra collects ideas and impressions that she'll incorporate into her designs later.
This is my first recommendation for a nice walk through Berlin as a capital city. Here I prefer that it's really white, you have sun, a lot of modern architecture, and you're right in the center of what's happening.
Her next recommendation takes us to the district of Wedding in the north of Berlin. It's an old working-class district, and it's still not quite as trendy as elsewhere in the city. With affordable rents, it's also favoured by artists and other creative spirits. The former depot belonging to Berlin's public transportation system now houses artist studios, workshops and dance studios. Sandra likes to come here to visit friends, and the Café Pförtner is her second recommendation. The cafe is located in what was once the entrance to a large factory complex. It's still an out-of-the-way spot and a favourite among all the creative types who work here.
This is a former industrial building, and now it's used by artists for their ateliers, their art spaces, and also for the Café Pförtner. And I really like it here because it's a really special place with, which is not ready, which is still in movement and in a process. That's what I like.
Next, it's time to head for what used to be East Berlin. The flavour of the former communist East is still present here. These high-rises were once prestigious addresses before the wall came down. From Strausberger Square, we walk over to Karl Marx Allee. The boulevard is lined with monumental apartment buildings that were once called workers' palaces. And it's also where we find our third tip of the day: the Kino International or Cinema International.
For going to cinema in Berlin, I recommend visiting Kino International because it's a beautiful building from the GDR, and it has a really special atmosphere where you can enjoy almost every film.
This cinema opened in 1963 and went on to premiere all the major films shown in the former East Berlin. Now it's an art house venue. The Honecker Lounge, named after the former East German leader Erich Honecker, is open to visitors. Today the cinema building is a listed historic building. Sandra is glad the architectural legacy of the former East is getting its due. It's all part of the tumultuous history of the city, and part of what makes Berlin such a fascinating place to visit even today.